My son left me and would not speak to me for 20 years, until I got 10 million. Then he asked me to his birthday party, but I had a plan. When I came, I said, "Your present is outside." As the story unfolds, take a moment to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Would you forgive him or seek revenge? That's how this whole thing started, or ended. Depends on how you look at it. The call came on a Tuesday. I was in the garage, organizing bolts by thread pitch, when Claire walked in holding her phone like it might explode. "It's Brandon," she said. I looked up from the workbench. "What about him?" "He called, left a voicemail, wants to see you." 20 years. 20 years of silence. The kid walked out of my life when he was 12, decided I wasn't worth his time, and that was that. His mother, my ex, made sure I never got close again. Restraining orders, custody battles, legal paperwork that tied my hands behind my back. By the time Brandon turned 18 and could make his own choices, he'd already made them. I didn't exist. "What does he want?" I asked. Claire played the message. Brandon's voice came through smooth, practiced, like he'd rehearsed it. "Hey, Dad. Long time, I know. I've been thinking about things, about family, and I want to reconnect. I'm having a birthday party next month. 32nd, big milestone. Would mean a lot if you came. Let's talk soon." I went back to sorting bolts. "Ray," Claire said. "I heard it." "And?" "And nothing. Kid ignored me for 2 decades. Now he wants family time?" Claire sat on the stool next to my workbench. She's been with me for 15 years, knows the whole story. Accountant by trade, sharp as a razor blade. She doesn't waste words. "The patent sale went public last week," she said. There it was. 3 months ago, I sold the rights to an old rigging system I'd designed back in my industrial days. Safety mechanism for overhead cranes. Took years to perfect, more years to patent, decades to find the right buyer. $10 million pre-tax. The trade journals ran a small piece. Some business blog picked it up. Nothing major, but enough. "So he saw the money," I said. "Probably." I picked up a grade 8 bolt, examined the threads. Clean, sharp, precise. "Then this isn't about reconciliation." "No," Claire said. "It's not." I set the bolt down carefully. Good. That makes things simpler. Over the next few days, I did my homework. Brandon Doyle wasn't hard to research. He ran an event production company called Elevation Events. Big corporate parties, product launches, private concerts. His website showed photos of light rigs, sound systems, decorated venues. Everything looked expensive and impressive. I dug deeper. Found his LLC registration, pulled some public financial filings through Claire's professional connections. The picture got clearer fast. Brandon's company was leveraged to its eyeballs. Short-term loans, equipment leases, vendor credit lines stretched thin. He owned almost nothing outright. The lights, the sound systems, the staging, all leased. Monthly payments that would choke a construction company. "He's running on vapor," Claire said, spreading printouts across the kitchen table. "One missed payment, and the whole thing collapses." "How close is he?" She tapped a page. "Equipment lease payment due on the 15th. That's the day after his birthday party." I studied the numbers. Brandon had built his business on borrowed credibility and rented gear. The events looked good, photos sold the illusion, but underneath there was nothing solid, just debt and timing. "Where's the party?" I asked. Claire pulled up the invitation on her laptop. "Oceanfront venue, the old Maritime Center on Dock Street. He's renting the whole building." I knew the place. Used to do safety inspections there back when it was still an active cargo facility. The building sat right on the water, big loading ramps, freight elevators, industrial-grade everything. They'd renovated it 5 years ago, turned it into an event space, but the bones were still the same. "I want to see it," I said. "The venue?" "Yeah, before I RSVP. I called the Maritime Center the next morning, asked to speak with building operations. The guy who answered had a voice I recognized. "This is Frank Barlow." "Frank, it's Ray Doyle." Pause. Then, "Ray? Holy hell, man. Been years." "Yeah. Listen, my kid's having an event there next month. Mind if I swing by and take a look at the space?" "Your kid? Brandon Doyle?" "That's him." Frank laughed. "Small world. Yeah, come on down. I'm here most days." I drove out that afternoon. The Maritime Center looked good from the outside. Fresh paint, new signage, landscaped approach. Inside, though, you could still see the industrial guts, exposed steel beams, polished concrete floors, loading doors that could handle shipping containers. Frank met me in the main hall. He'd put on weight, lost some hair, but his handshake was still solid. "Your boy's pulling out all the stops," he said. "Reserved the entire second floor outdoor deck plus use of the cargo lift for equipment access." "Cargo lift still operational?" "Oh yeah. We keep it maintained. Events this size need it for staging gear." We walked through the space. The main hall could hold 300 people easy. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbor. The loading ramp ran along the north side of the building, accessible from the parking lot. Equipment trucks could back right up to the service entrance. "What's the timeline for load-in?" I asked. Frank checked his clipboard. "His crew gets access at noon on the 14th. Event starts at 8 p.m. "And who controls the loading dock?" "We do. Building operations." "Why?" I looked out at the ramp, the cargo lift platform, the access gates. "Just curious? Old habits?" Frank grinned. "You thinking about safety protocols?" "Something like that." We walked outside. The loading ramp was a 40-foot run of reinforced concrete with a hydraulic platform at the base. Trucks could offload directly onto the platform, then ride it up to the service entrance. The whole system was designed for efficiency, for moving heavy loads fast. "You still do inspection work?" Frank asked. "Not really. Consulting now and then." "Well, if you want access for any reason, checking things out, whatever, just let me know. You're still certified, right?" "Current and active." "Then you're good. Building policy allows certified inspectors during setup periods." I looked at him. "That include equipment demonstration slots?" Frank shrugged. "Sure, if it's scheduled and documented." "Why? You planning something?" "Maybe," I said. "I'll let you know." I drove home thinking about access times, load-in schedules, and timing windows. By the time I walked through the front door, I had the skeleton of a plan. Claire was in her office, laptop open, papers everywhere. "Find something?" I asked. She looked up. "Brandon's personally liable on the equipment lease, not his LLC, him." "What does that mean?" "It means if he defaults, they can come after his personal assets, his reputation, his future credit lines, everything. He signed a personal guarantee." I pulled up a chair. "Why would he do that?" "Because his company didn't qualify for the lease on its own. Lenders wanted a guarantee. He probably thought it was temporary, a stepping stone until his business stabilized." "But it never did." "No, it got worse. He's been rolling debt, using new clients to pay old invoices. Classic pyramid scheme without the scale." I thought about that for a long time. Brandon had built a house of cards, and he knew it. That's why he'd called me. That's why the sudden family reunion. He was drowning and looking for a lifeline, but he hadn't asked for help. He'd invited me to a party. "How much does he need?" I asked. Claire pulled up a spreadsheet. "To clear the immediate deadline, about $400,000. And if he misses the payment?" "The leasing company can repossess everything, all his gear, all his staging equipment. He'd be finished." I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. "Call Brandon," I said. "Tell him I'm coming to the party." "What are you going to do, Ray?" I turned to look at her. "I'm going to give my son a birthday present." The next morning, I called Frank Barlow back. "Frank, remember what we talked about yesterday? Equipment demonstration slots?" "Yeah, what about it?" "I want to reserve one. Day of the event, around 7 p.m. Just need access to the loading ramp and cargo platform for about an hour. What kind of demonstration? Rigging equipment, safety testing. Nothing that'll interfere with the party setup, but I need it documented and official. Frank was quiet for a second. You're up to something. Just being thorough. All right, he said. I'll put you down. Send me the details in an email so I have paperwork. Will do. I spent the rest of the day drafting a formal request. Equipment inspection and demonstration, certified consultant, all the right language. Made it sound legitimate because it was legitimate. I wasn't planning to break any laws. I was planning to let the law do exactly what it was designed to do. Claire came home that evening with more research. I found the leasing company, she said, dropping a folder on the table. Gulf Coast Equipment Partners. They handle high-end event gear all over the Southeast. Lights, sound systems, staging, the works. What's their reputation? Professional, strict. They don't mess around with late payments. Good. She sat down across from me. Ray, are you sure about this? About what? Whatever you're planning, you're being careful, methodical. That's not anger. That's strategy. I met her eyes. Brandon cut me out of his life when he was 12 years old. Didn't call on my birthday. Didn't call on Christmas. Didn't call when his mother passed. 20 years of silence. Now he shows up because I have money, throws a party, and expects what? That I'll write him a check? Maybe. Well, I won't. I tapped the folder. But I will give him exactly what he deserves. Which is? A lesson in consequences. Over the next week, I made more calls, talked to people in the rigging business, the equipment rental world, the event production scene, asked casual questions, gathered information. Nobody questioned it. I'd been in the industry for 30 years. Asking questions was part of the job. I learned that Gulf Coast Equipment Partners had a reputation for fast repossession. Miss a payment, they'd have a truck at your door within hours. Legal, efficient, ruthless. They had to be. Event companies went under all the time, leaving gear scattered across venues. I also learned that Brandon's event was massive. Full concert lighting, professional sound system, staging worth $500,000, all leased, all secured by his personal guarantee. How does repossession work legally? I asked Claire. She pulled out her reading glasses, scrolled through some documents. If he defaults on the payment, the lease goes into breach. The company can exercise their security interest immediately. They don't need a court order if it's spelled out in the contract. What about timing? Contract says payment due by midnight on the 15th. Event is on the 14th. So technically, if he doesn't pay by the deadline, they can act. Even if the equipment is at an active event? Especially then. They want it back before it gets damaged or disappears. Repossession teams move fast. I thought about the timing. Brandon's party started at 8 p.m. on the 14th. The payment deadline was midnight on the 15th. That gave him about 28 hours. But if the leasing company knew he was about to default, they could position themselves early. What if someone told Gulf Coast that Brandon wasn't going to make the payment? I asked. Claire looked at me. Then they'd prepare for repossession. Legally? Completely. They're just protecting their assets. I nodded slowly. And if someone with industry credibility, say a former safety consultant, happened to confirm that the equipment would be at a specific location during a specific time window? Claire took off her glasses. They'd send a team to that location, without breaking any laws. Without breaking any laws, she agreed. I sat back in my chair. The plan was starting to take shape. No sabotage, no vandalism, no illegal interference. Just information, timing, and legal process. Let Brandon's own decisions destroy him. I need to meet with Brandon, I said, face to face, before the party. Why? Because I need to see what I'm dealing with, and because he'll expect it. Claire called Brandon the next day and set up a lunch meeting. Neutral location, casual restaurant, nothing too formal. Brandon picked the place, some trendy spot downtown with small portions and big prices. I showed up 5 minutes early. Brandon was already there, sitting at a corner table, checking his phone. He looked up when I approached. 20 years. He'd been a kid last time I saw him. Now he was a man. Expensive haircut, designer clothes, confident posture. He stood up, extended his hand. "Dad, thanks for coming." I shook his hand. Firm grip, practiced smile. "Brandon." We sat down. The server came by, took drink orders, disappeared. Brandon leaned back in his chair, relaxed, in control. "I'm glad you agreed to meet," he said. "I know it's been a long time. 20 years. Yeah." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I've thought about reaching out before. Life gets busy, you know." "Sure. But I'm at a point now where I'm thinking about what matters. Family, connections, building something lasting." I didn't say anything, just watched him talk. "That's why I wanted you at the party," he continued. "It's a big milestone for me, turning 32, but also celebrating the success of the business. I've worked really hard to build Elevation Events into something special." "I've seen your website," I said. "Looks impressive." "Thanks. It's been a journey. Lots of challenges, but we're growing. Actually, we're on the verge of some major expansion." "That right?" He nodded. "Yeah, we've got investors interested, potential partnerships. This party is partly a celebration, partly a showcase. Industry people will be there. Could be a real game changer." The server came back with drinks. Brandon ordered some complicated salad. I ordered a burger. The server left. "So," Brandon said, "I heard about your patent sale. Congratulations. That's a big accomplishment." There it was, the real reason for lunch. "Thanks," I said. 10 million. That's incredible. You must feel pretty good." "I feel fine." He smiled again. "You always were modest. But seriously, that's the kind of success I respect. Building something, seeing it pay off. That's what I'm trying to do with my company." I took a sip of water. "Your company have investors?" "Some. Mostly we're self-financed, staying independent." "Self-financed with leased equipment?" His smile flickered, just for a second. "You've been doing research." "Old habit." "Well, yeah. Equipment leasing is standard in the event industry. Nobody buys everything outright. The costs would be prohibitive." "Unless you had $10 million, I said. Brandon laughed. "True. But I'm not there yet. Still building." "How's the building going?" "Good. Really good. We've had some cash flow challenges, but that's normal in this business. Payments come in slower than expenses go out, but we're managing." "Managing." "Yeah." He leaned forward slightly. "Actually, that's something I wanted to talk to you about. Not at the party, that's a celebration. But maybe sometime after, we could sit down and discuss some opportunities." "What kind of opportunities?" "Investment opportunities. You've got capital now. I've got a growing business. Could be a good fit." I looked at him for a long moment. Everything about him was polished, rehearsed, calculated. He wasn't my son. He was a salesman. "Let me think about it," I said. "Sure. No pressure. Just putting it out there." The food came. We ate in relative silence. Brandon checked his phone twice, typed out messages, smiled at the screen. When the check came, he reached for it, but I took it first. "I've got it," I said. "You sure?" "Yeah." I paid. We walked out to the parking lot together. Brandon's car was a leased BMW, probably. Shiny, expensive, not owned. "Thanks for lunch," he said, "and thanks for agreeing to come to the party. It really means a lot." "I'll be there," I said. "Great. Oh, and Dad?" I stopped, looked at him. "Bring Claire. I'd love to meet her. And who knows, maybe you'll surprise me with a great birthday present." He smiled, got in his car, drove away. I stood in the parking lot for a minute, watching him go. Then I got in my truck and called Claire. "How'd it go?" she asked. "He wants money." Figured. He didn't ask directly, danced around it, talked about investment opportunities. "What did you say?" I said I'd think about it. Are you going to help him? I started the engine. No, but I'm going to give him exactly what he asked for. The week before the party, I intensified my research. Claire pulled more financial records, tracked Brandon's payment history, mapped out his cash flow timeline. The picture was worse than I'd thought. He's been juggling payments for 6 months, Claire said, highlighting sections of a spreadsheet. Paying one vendor with money meant for another. Classic pyramid behavior. How long can he keep that up? Not much longer. The equipment lease payment is the breaking point. If he makes it, he buys himself another month. If he doesn't, everything collapses. And he can't make it without help. Not based on these numbers. I looked at the timeline she'd created. Payment due, midnight, 15th. Party on the 14th. He'd need the money by the deadline, which meant he'd be scrambling right up until the last minute. What if he gets a last-minute loan? I asked. From who? His credit is maxed. Banks won't touch him. He'd need a private investor. Like a father who just sold a patent. Claire nodded. That's what he's counting on. I stood up, paced the room. The plan was forming, getting sharper with every piece of information. Brandon wanted money. I wouldn't give it to him. But I also wouldn't stop the natural consequences of his choices. I'd just make sure those consequences happened exactly when and where they'd hurt the most. I need to talk to Gulf Coast Equipment Partners, I said. Why? Because they need to know their gear is at risk. Claire frowned. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That their client is in financial trouble, that the equipment will be concentrated in one location during a specific time window, and that they should be prepared to exercise their legal rights if he defaults. That's not interfering? No, that's informing a creditor about their security interest. Completely legal. I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm not tampering with his business. I'm just making sure the people who have a legal claim to that equipment know where it'll be and when. Ray, if they repossess during the party, they won't repossess during the party. The party will be over by 11, but they'll be positioned, ready, and the second Brandon misses that midnight payment, they'll move. Fast and legal. Claire studied my face for a long moment. You've thought this through. Every angle. What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong, because I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just facilitating consequences. I called Gulf Coast the next day, asked to speak with their asset recovery department, got transferred twice before reaching a guy named Mitchell Green. His voice was professional, careful. How can I help you? Green asked. My name is Ray Doyle. I'm a certified rigging and safety consultant with 30 years in the industry. I'm calling about one of your clients, Brandon Doyle, Elevation Events. What about him? I have credible reason to believe he's going to default on his next lease payment. I wanted to make sure you were aware and could protect your assets accordingly. Silence on the line. Then, what's your relationship to Brandon Doyle? I'm his father. More silence. Longer this time. You're calling to tell us your son is going to default? I'm calling to tell you your equipment is at risk. He's got a major event scheduled for the 14th, next Thursday. Full staging setup at the Maritime Center on Dock Street. If he defaults on the 15th like I believe he will, you'll want to act fast. That gear will be concentrated in one location, easy access, controlled environment. Much easier than chasing it across multiple venues. Mr. Doyle, why are you telling me this? Because it's the right thing to do. You're a creditor. You have a security interest in that equipment. You deserve to know when your assets are at risk. I've worked in this industry long enough to know what happens when companies collapse. Equipment disappears, gets damaged, ends up in legal limbo. I'm giving you a chance to avoid that. Green was quiet for a long moment. I could hear him breathing, thinking. This is highly unusual. I'm aware. If you're wrong, if he makes the payment, then you've lost nothing but some preparation time. But if I'm right, you'll be in position to recover your property immediately. Clean, fast, legal. And what do you get out of this? I thought about how to answer that. Peace of mind, the knowledge that things worked out the way they were supposed to. Mr. Doyle, I have to ask, is this some kind of family dispute? This is business. Your business. You have equipment out on lease to a client with deteriorating financials. I'm providing you with information that helps you protect your assets. What you do with that information is up to you. Another pause. I'll need to verify some things. Verify whatever you need. Pull his payment history. Check his credit. Look at his company filings. It's all there. If we determine you're right, if we do position for potential repossession, you understand we're not doing this as a favor to you? I understand completely. You'd be doing it to protect your own interests, which is exactly what you should be doing. All right, Green said finally. I'll look into this. Can I reach you at this number if I have questions? Anytime. After I hung up, Claire looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something between admiration and concern. That was cold, she said. That was business. Ray, you just set your son up for total collapse. No, I said carefully. He set himself up. I'm just making sure the dominoes fall the way they're supposed to. He signed those contracts. He made those personal guarantees. He took money he couldn't pay back. Those are his choices, not mine. But you're accelerating the consequences. I'm ensuring the consequences. There's a difference. If I did nothing, he might find some other victim to manipulate, some other mark to exploit. This way he learns, completely, permanently. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Do you think he'll figure out what you're doing? Not until it's too late. And when he does? Then he'll understand exactly what it feels like to be powerless. The next few days moved fast. Frank confirmed my equipment demonstration slot, 7 p.m. on the 14th, loading ramp access, 1 hour. I prepared documentation, filed the paperwork, made everything official and above board. I also made another trip to the Maritime Center. This time I brought a camera, took photos of the loading ramp layout, the cargo lift specifications, the access points. Told Frank I was documenting site conditions for my demonstration. He didn't question it. On one of those visits, I ran into one of Brandon's crew doing advanced setup. Young guy, maybe 25, wearing an Elevation Events polo shirt. He was measuring the stage area, making notes on a clipboard. Big event? I asked casually. He looked up. Yeah, boss is going all out. Biggest production we've ever done. Brandon's your boss? Yeah, you know him? We've met. He must be excited. The kid laughed. Excited and stressed. He's been on edge all week. Keeps checking his phone, making calls, but that's normal for him before big events. Sounds like a lot of pressure. Oh yeah, but this one's important. Could really put us on the map, you know. We've got industry people coming, potential investors. If this goes well, we're set. I nodded. And if it doesn't? The kid's smile faded slightly. Then we're probably screwed. Boss has everything riding on this. Everything? Pretty much, but it'll be fine. Brandon always pulls through. I thanked him and walked away, thinking about that phrase. Brandon always pulls through. Not this time. This time, there'd be no miracle save, no last-minute rescue, just consequences arriving right on schedule. Claire texted me that afternoon. Green called, wants to meet tomorrow, says he verified your information. I texted back, good. That evening, I sat in my garage and went over the timeline one more time. Every piece had to fit perfectly. The equipment demonstration slot at 7 p.m. gave me legitimate access to the loading ramp area during final setup. The party started at 8, ran until 11. Payment deadline was midnight on the 15th. Technically early morning of the 15th, about 13 hours after the party ended. But here was the key detail. Lease contracts typically have clauses about repossession timing. If payment isn't received by deadline, the creditor can act immediately. They don't have to wait for business hours or send additional notices. The contract Brandon signed gave Gulf Coast the right to repossess the instant he defaulted, which meant if Brandon didn't make that midnight payment, Gulf Coast could have trucks there by 1 a.m., 2 a.m. at the latest. The equipment would still be at the venue. Brandon's crew wouldn't start breaking down until the next morning. Everything would be in one place, documented, easy to inventory and remove, perfect timing, perfect circumstances, and completely legal. Claire came into the garage with 2 beers, handed me one. "You're smiling," she said. "Am I?" "Yeah, it's a little unsettling." I took a drink. "I'm just appreciating good planning." "This is more than good planning, Ray. This is surgical." "Thank you." That wasn't necessarily a compliment. I'll take it as one anyway. She sat on the workbench stool, watching me. "Are you sure about this? Really sure? Because once it starts, there's no stopping it." I looked at her. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. No regrets? Not one. What if he finds out you were behind it? Then he'll know, and he'll understand that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people like disposable tools and expect no repercussions. He'll hate you. He already erased me once. Can't erase someone twice. Claire smiled sadly. I suppose not. We sat there in comfortable silence, drinking our beers. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the garage walls orange and gold. Everything felt calm, settled. Right. Tomorrow I'd meet with Mitchell Green, confirm the details, make sure Gulf Coast was positioned and ready, and then, on Thursday, I'd watch 20 years of silence get answered with one perfect, devastating lesson in consequences. 3 days before the party, I got a text from Brandon. "Hey Dad, really looking forward to seeing you Thursday. Any chance we could talk before then?" I showed Claire the message. "He's getting nervous," she said. "Good." I didn't respond to the text for 6 hours. Let him wait. When I finally replied, I kept it simple. "See you Thursday." That evening, Frank called. "Ray, got your demonstration paperwork approved. You're cleared for 7 p.m. Thursday. Just need you to sign in at the security desk." Appreciate it, Frank. What exactly are you demonstrating? Load distribution testing, rigging safety protocols. During an event setup? Won't interfere. I'll be on the exterior ramp. Brandon's crew will be inside. Frank hesitated. "You two okay? I mean, family-wise?" "We're fine," I lied. "All right, just checking. See you Thursday." I spent the next day going over the timeline again. Brandon's crew had access starting at noon. They'd spend the afternoon setting up lights, sound, staging. The party started at 8 p.m. My demonstration slot was 7 to 8, right during final setup, but technically outside the event space. Claire was working through Brandon's financial records again when I came into her office. "Found something," she said. "What?" "Brandon made a payment request to his primary investor yesterday. Asked for a bridge loan of $500,000. And? They declined, said his financials didn't support additional exposure." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not sympathy, satisfaction. "So he's out of options," I said. "Except one." "Me." Claire nodded. "He'll ask you Thursday night, probably after the party starts, when you're surrounded by his success, his connections, his world. He'll make it feel natural. And when I say no, then he'll panic. Might try to guilt you, might try to negotiate, but ultimately, he'll be cornered." I thought about that. Brandon had been cornering himself for years, making bad decisions, choosing ego over sustainability. Now the walls were closing in. "Mitchell Green called me back," I said. "From Gulf Coast?" "Yeah. Confirmed they'll have a team on standby Thursday night. If Brandon misses the deadline, they'll move fast." "How fast?" "Midnight deadline Friday. If payment doesn't clear, they'll be at the venue by 2 a.m. Claire took off her glasses. "That's during the party." "No, party ends at 11. Brandon scheduled it that way. Early end, keep it classy. By midnight, everyone will be gone." Except the equipment. Except the equipment. She looked at me for a long moment. You've thought of everything. I've tried. Ray, there's no going back after this. You know that, right? I met her eyes. There's been no relationship to go back to for 20 years. This just makes it official. Thursday morning arrived cold and gray. Rain forecast for the evening, typical for November. I dressed simple. Jeans, work boots, dark jacket. Claire wore slacks and a sweater. You don't have to come, I said. Yes, I do. We drove to the Maritime Center in silence. The parking lot was already full. Caterers, vendors, Brandon's crew. Trucks lined the loading ramp, workers moving equipment on dollies and carts. I checked in at the security desk. The guard looked at my paperwork, nodded, handed me a visitor badge. Equipment demonstration, right? That's right. You're cleared for the exterior loading area. Stay out of the main hall. Will do. Claire and I walked through the building. Inside, the transformation was impressive. String lights, draped fabric, bars set up in 3 corners. A stage dominated the far end, professional lighting rigs overhead. Brandon's crew moved with practiced efficiency. I spotted Brandon near the stage, talking to a sound technician. He looked stressed, checking his phone constantly, barking orders. He saw me, waved, started over. Dad, you made it early. Wanted to see the setup. He smiled, but it was tight. Yeah, it's coming together. Lot of moving parts. Looks expensive. It is. But you have to spend money to make money, right? I glanced around. All this gear yours? Leased. Standard practice. Right. An uncomfortable pause. Brandon checked his phone again. Listen, I've got to handle some vendor issues. Party starts at 8. You'll be here? I'll be here. Great. We'll talk then. Maybe grab a drink, catch up properly. He walked away before I could respond. Claire touched my arm. He's already panicking, she said quietly. Yeah. We left the main hall, walked outside to the loading ramp. The rain had started, light drizzle, making the concrete dark and slick. Frank was out there, supervising a delivery truck. Ray! Right on time! Traffic was light. He gestured to the loading platform. All yours for the next hour. Need anything from me? Just access. I'll handle the rest. Frank nodded, walked back inside. I stood on the ramp, looking at the cargo lift, the access gates, the timing of trucks coming and going. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. Claire stood beside me, rain speckling her jacket. What now? She asked. Now we wait, I said. At 7:30, Brandon came outside. His jacket was expensive but not rainproof. He looked annoyed. Dad, what are you doing out here? Equipment demonstration. Had it scheduled? During my event? Before your event, paperwork's filed with building operations. He ran a hand through his wet hair. Can it wait? We've got guests arriving in 30 minutes. I'll be done by then. Brandon looked at the loading ramp, the equipment I'd arranged, rigging chains, test weights, measurement tools. Nothing dramatic, just professional gear. What is this for? He asked. Safety protocols, load distribution testing. Here? Now? It's legal and scheduled, Brandon. He stared at me, and something shifted in his expression. Suspicion, maybe. Or recognition. You could have picked any day, he said. I picked today. We stood there in the rain, father and son, 20 years of silence between us. Why are you really here? He asked. You invited me. To the party, not to this. I didn't answer. Brandon's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went pale. I have to go, he said. We'll talk later. He went back inside. Claire appeared from the service entrance. That was interesting, she said. He's starting to understand. You think he knows? Not yet, but he's afraid. The rain picked up. We moved under the loading dock overhang. Through the windows, I could see the party starting. Guests arriving in formal wear, Brandon greeting them with a smile that looked carved from ice. At 8:15, my phone rang. Mitchell Green. Mr. Doyle, just confirming. Our team is positioned nearby. We've been monitoring the account. No payment activity yet. Understood. If he defaults, we move immediately. You understand that means full repossession? Everything at that venue. I understand. Just making sure. This is your son we're talking about. I know exactly who it is. I hung up. Claire was watching the party through the window. Looks successful, she said. Looks aren't everything. At 9 p.m., Brandon found us. We were sitting in the loading dock office, staying dry. He came in without knocking, and he wasn't smiling anymore. We need to talk, he said. All right. Not here. Outside. We followed him onto the ramp. The rain had steadied into a consistent downpour. Brandon stood under the overhang, shaking. I know why you're here, he said. Do you? You're angry about the past, about me cutting you out. I'm not angry, Brandon. Then what? What is this? Some kind of game? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the scared kid underneath the expensive suit. It's not a game, I said. It's a lesson. In what? Consequences. He laughed, but it was desperate. You want to teach me consequences? Now? After 20 years? You came to me, remember? You called me. Because I wanted to reconnect. No, I said. You wanted money. Silence. Just the rain on the concrete. I don't know what you're talking about, Brandon said. I pulled out my phone, showed him the financial records Claire had compiled. His face went white. Where did you get those? Public records, credit filings, it's all legal. You've been spying on me? I've been doing research. There's a difference. Brandon's hands were shaking now. Okay, fine. Yes, I need money. The business is in a tight spot, but that doesn't mean... It means exactly that. You invited me because you saw the patent sale. You thought you could manipulate me into investing. But you never wanted a father. You wanted an ATM. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. You cut me out of your life when you were 12 years old. Didn't speak to me for 2 decades, and now you want to talk about fair? I was a kid. Mom told me. You've been an adult for 14 years, Brandon. You could have called any time. You chose not to. He was crying now, rain and tears mixing on his face. Please, I need help. The payment is due tomorrow. If I don't make it, I lose everything. Then you lose everything. Dad, don't call me that. You gave up that right. Brandon grabbed my arm. Please, I'm begging you. I'll pay you back. I'll give you equity in the company. Whatever you want. I pulled my arm free. I don't want your company. I don't want your promises. I want you to understand what you did. I understand. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Brandon collapsed against the wall, sliding down to sit on the wet concrete. What do you want from me? I crouched down to his level. I want you to feel what I felt. 20 years of being invisible. 20 years of being nothing. You're about to understand that, Brandon. You're about to know exactly what it's like. I stood up. Claire was behind me, silent. The payment deadline is midnight, I said. You've got 3 hours. I can't make it without help. Then you'll miss it. Why are you doing this? I looked down at him, rain-soaked and broken. Because you asked me to your party, I said. And I'm giving you exactly what you deserve. Inside, the party continued. Music thumped through the walls, laughter echoed across the harbor. Brandon's guests had no idea the host was outside, falling apart in the rain. Claire and I went back to the loading dock office. Through the window, we watched Brandon sit there for almost 10 minutes before finally getting up and going back inside. He'll try to find money, Claire said. He won't find it. You're sure? I'm sure. At 10 p.m., I saw Brandon working the party, talking to guests with desperate intensity. He was trying to borrow money, calling in favors, making pitches. I could see it in his body language, the lean in, the urgent gestures, the pleading eyes. Nobody was biting. Frank appeared in the office doorway. Your demonstration done? Almost. Party wraps at 11. You need to be clear by then. We will be. He looked at me oddly. You okay, Ray? You seem focused. Just being thorough. Frank left. Claire checked her phone. Green texted. His team is 2 blocks away. They're waiting for confirmation of default. What time is it? 10:15. I did the math. 1 hour, 45 minutes until midnight. 1 hour, 45 minutes until Brandon's world collapsed. At 10:30, Brandon came back outside. He was soaked, exhausted, defeated. I can't find the money, he said. I know. I've called everyone. Nobody will help. Because you built your business on sand. Because I made mistakes. Yes, I said. You did. He looked at me with something like hope. But you could fix this. 1 check. That's all it would take. I could. Then do it, please. I'm your son. I stepped closer to him. You stopped being my son 20 years ago. You made that choice. Now you get to live with it. Brandon's face twisted. You're a monster. No. I'm a father who got erased. There's a difference. I'll remember this. What you did here. Good, I said. Remember it for the rest of your life. He went back inside. The party was winding down, guests starting to leave. I watched through the window as Brandon smiled, shook hands, played the perfect host. But his eyes were empty. At 11, the party ended. Guests filed out, cars left the parking lot. The catering staff cleaned up, the vendors packed their gear. But the big equipment, the lights, the sound system, the staging, stayed in place. That gear belonged to Gulf Coast Equipment Partners, and in 1 hour, they'd know it. Claire and I sat in my truck, heater running, watching the building go dark. You're really going through with this, she said. Yes. No last-minute mercy? He wouldn't have shown me mercy. You don't know that. I looked at her. Yes, I do. At 11:30, Brandon came out alone. He walked to his BMW, sat in the driver's seat, didn't start the engine, just sat there in the dark. I knew what he was doing, waiting, hoping, praying for some miracle that wouldn't come. At 11:45, my phone rang. Green. Mr. Doyle, we're showing no payment activity. Deadline is in 15 minutes. I understand. Once we move, there's no stopping it. Equipment will be recovered tonight. I understand, I said again. Just wanted to confirm. This is going to devastate his business. Yes, I said. It is. Silence on the line. Then, all right, we'll proceed. At 11:58, I saw Brandon check his phone one last time. Then he put his head on the steering wheel. Midnight came. Nothing happened for exactly 3 minutes. Then trucks appeared. 2 of them, unmarked, professional. They pulled up to the loading ramp with practiced efficiency. Men in Gulf Coast Equipment Partners jackets got out, consulted paperwork, approached the building. Brandon's head snapped up. He saw the trucks, saw the men, and he knew. He jumped out of his car, ran toward the loading dock. What are you doing? You can't be here. One of the men showed him paperwork. Security interest repossession. Your lease is in default. No, I still have time. Deadline was midnight. It's now 12:03 a.m. We're exercising our legal rights. Brandon spun around, looking for someone, anyone. His eyes found mine across the parking lot. You did this, he screamed. You planned this. I got out of my truck, walked slowly toward him. I didn't do anything, I said. You did this to yourself. I'll sue you. You'll do nothing. Everything here is legal. Check with your lawyer. The repossession team was already inside, moving equipment. Lights on dollies, sound panels, staging sections. Working fast, professional, unstoppable. Brandon tried to block them. One of the men showed him more paperwork. "Sir, interfering with legal repossession is a crime. Step back." "This is my equipment." "No, sir. This is leased equipment, and the lease is void." Brandon turned to me again, and his face was pure hatred. "Why? Just tell me why." I thought about all the birthdays he'd missed, all the calls he'd never made, 20 years of silence. "Because you invited me to your party," I said, "and I came." The repossession took 90 minutes. Brandon stood in the rain, watching them strip his event down to bare walls. Every light, every speaker, every piece of staging, loaded onto trucks and driven away. Claire stood beside me, quiet. She'd seen my plan unfold exactly as designed, but I could tell it shook her. "Are you satisfied?" she asked. "Not yet." Brandon's phone kept ringing. He ignored it at first, then answered with shaking hands. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw his face crumble. Word was getting out. The industry moved fast. By 2 a.m. the venue was empty, just bare floors and naked walls. The transformation was complete, from successful event to gutted space in under 2 hours. Frank came out looking confused and uncomfortable. "Ray, what the hell happened?" "Legal repossession. Brandon's event gear? All of it." Frank looked at me, then at Brandon sitting on the loading ramp, head in his hands. "You knew this would happen," Frank said. "Yes." "Jesus, Ray. He made his choices." Frank shook his head and went back inside. Claire touched my arm. "It's done. We should go." "Not yet." I walked over to Brandon. He didn't look up. "You destroyed me," he said quietly. "No, I just stopped protecting you from yourself." "Same thing." "No, it's not." He finally looked up. His eyes were red, face streaked with rain and tears. Was this revenge? For everything? "This was a lesson," I said, "about what happens when you treat people like they're disposable. I was a kid. You were an adult for 14 years. You had every chance to reach out to rebuild. You chose not to. You only called when you wanted something. So you decided to destroy my business?" "You destroyed your business. I just made sure you understood the consequences." Brandon laughed, bitter and broken. "You must feel great. Big man, crushing your own son." "I don't feel great. I feel finished." I reached into my jacket, pulled out an envelope, handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "Read it." He opened it. Inside were copies of all the financial records Claire had compiled. His loans, his leases, his personal guarantees. Everything documented, highlighted, annotated. "I wanted you to see how bad it got," I said. "How many choices you made that led here. This didn't happen to you, Brandon. You built it yourself, piece by piece." He stared at the papers. "Why show me this now?" "Because you need to understand. I didn't sabotage you. I didn't break any laws. I just let the system work the way it's designed. You signed those contracts. You made those guarantees. You took those risks. With no safety net. Because you cut off your safety net 20 years ago." Brandon crumpled the papers in his fist. "What do you want from me? Gratitude? Apology?" "I don't want anything from you," I said. "I never did. That's what you never understood. Then why come to the party? Why put me through this?" I crouched down to his level, like I had earlier in the evening. But this time, there was no desperation in his eyes, just exhaustion. "Because you needed to learn," I said, "that actions have consequences, that people aren't tools, that family isn't something you dust off when you need money." "Lesson learned," he said flatly. "Good." I stood up. Brandon stayed on the ground, surrounded by wet concrete and broken dreams. "You know what the worst part is?" he said. "What?" "I actually thought you might help. Somewhere in the back of my mind I thought, maybe he's my dad. Maybe he'll come through." "I did come through," I said, "just not the way you wanted." "That's twisted." "That's honest." Claire appeared beside me. "Ray, we should go." I looked down at Brandon one more time. You'll recover from this. Maybe not the business, but you. You'll find something else, some other angle. That's what people like you do. People like me? Survivors. You're my son after all. Don't, he said. Don't try to make this into some bonding moment. I'm not. I'm just stating facts. Brandon pulled himself up, stood facing me. We were the same height, same eyes, same stubborn jaw. If I ever get back on my feet, he said, I'll remember this night. I'm counting on it, and I'll make sure you regret it. I smiled. You can try. He turned and walked to his car, sat inside, started the engine, drove away without looking back. Claire and I stood in the empty parking lot. Rain had stopped. Sky was clearing. Dawn would come soon. How do you feel? She asked. Empty. That's not what I expected you to say. What did you expect? Triumphant. Victorious. I looked at the maritime center, dark and silent. I got what I wanted. But it doesn't feel like victory. What does it feel like? Necessary. We got in the truck. I started the engine, turned on the heat. Claire was quiet for a long time. Do you think he'll actually recover? She asked. Probably. He's resourceful. And if he comes after you? Let him try. We drove home through empty streets. The city was asleep. By the time we got back, the sky was turning gray with pre-dawn light. Inside, Claire made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table looking at my hands. They weren't shaking. They were steady. You know this will get around, Claire said. The industry will hear about it. I know. Some people will think you're cruel. Let them. Others will think you're justified. I don't care what they think. She sat down across from me. What do you care about? I thought about that. About 20 years of silence. About a son who'd erased me until he needed money. About consequences and lessons and the price of betrayal. I care that it's over, I said. Is it? For me, yes. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Industry people, old colleagues, curious acquaintances. Word had spread fast. Brandon Doyle's spectacular collapse at his own birthday party. I didn't answer any of them. Claire was in her office, working through emails. She called out to me around 9. Ray, you need to see this. I walked into her office. She'd pulled up Brandon's company website. There was a statement posted. Due to unforeseen financial circumstances, Elevation Events is temporarily suspending operations. We apologize to our clients and partners. Further updates will follow. Temporarily, I said. He's trying to salvage something. Won't work. Once the repossession goes on his record, no lender will touch him. Claire closed the laptop. You sound certain. I am certain. I made sure of it. How? I'd made one more call the night before, after we got home, to a credit reporting service, filing a formal notification about the default. Legal, documented, permanent. His credit score just dropped 200 points, I said. He'll be blacklisted from equipment leasing for years. Claire looked at me. You're thorough. I learned a long time ago. If you're going to do something, do it completely. My phone rang again. This time it was Frank. I answered. Hey. Ray, what the hell did you do? He didn't sound angry, just confused. I did what needed to be done. Brandon's business is finished, you know that, right? Yes. And you're okay with that? Frank, I appreciate your concern, but this was between me and my son. Was it worth it? I thought about that. Ask me in a year. Fair enough. He paused. For what it's worth, I get it. What he did to you, cutting you out like that. But man, this was brutal. It was necessary. If you say so. Take care, Ray. He hung up. Claire was watching me. People are going to judge you for this, she said. People have been judging me my whole life. I'm used to it. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I stopped letting other people's opinions hurt me a long time ago. She stood up, came over, put her hand on my shoulder. Are you sure about that? I met her eyes. Claire, I spent 20 years wondering what I did wrong. 20 years thinking maybe if I'd been a better father, my son wouldn't have abandoned me. And then he called and I realized it was never about me. It was about him, his choices, his priorities, his selfishness. And this was your way of showing him that? This was my way of making sure he understood consequences. He thought he could use me. He was wrong. Claire squeezed my shoulder, then went back to her desk. I stood in the doorway, feeling the weight of the last few weeks lifting. It was over. Brandon was gone from my life permanently this time. No false hope, no future reconciliation, just clean separation. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're a coward and a failure. I hope you're happy. I recognized the tone. Brandon, using a different number. I didn't respond. Just deleted the message. Another text came through 10 seconds later. You destroyed everything I built. For what? To feel powerful? Delete. Another. I'll tell everyone what you did. I'll make sure people know the kind of man you are. Delete. The messages kept coming. Angry, desperate, hateful. I let them pile up without reading them, then blocked the number. Claire looked over. Him? Yeah. What did he say? Doesn't matter. Ray. It doesn't matter, I said again. He can scream into the void all he wants. It won't change anything. The rest of the day passed quietly. I worked in the garage, organizing tools, cleaning workbenches, physical work, mindless and therapeutic. Around dinner time, Claire came out with her tablet. Brandon posted something on social media. I don't want to see it. You should see it. She showed me the screen. Brandon had posted a long statement about betrayal, family, and business setbacks. He didn't mention me by name, but the implications were clear. He's playing the victim, I said. People are responding. Some are sympathetic. Some always are. Others are asking questions, wondering what really happened. I handed the tablet back. Let them wonder. I'm not explaining myself to strangers. What about to people you know? What about them? Frank called. Others will too. What are you going to tell them? I thought about that. The truth. My son cut me out of his life for 20 years, then called when he needed money. I declined to help. That's it. That's leaving out a lot of details. Details don't matter. The core truth is simple. Claire sat down on the garage stool. You know, when this started, I wasn't sure about your plan. It seemed harsh, but watching it unfold, seeing his manipulation, I get it now. Good. But I'm worried about you. Why? Because you're acting like this doesn't affect you, like you're fine. But I know you, Ray. This costs something. I set down the wrench I'd been holding. Of course it costs something. He was my son. I loved him. Hell, part of me still loves him. But love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Is that what he was doing? He was trying to. The invitation, the party, the whole setup. It was manipulation. He wanted me to feel obligated, guilty, desperate to reconnect. And then, when I was emotionally vulnerable, he'd ask for money. Maybe not directly, but he'd make it clear what he needed. You don't know that for certain. Yes, I do. Because I saw his financial records. He planned this party after the patent sale went public. The timing wasn't coincidence. Claire nodded slowly. You're right. I don't know. Sad, I guess. Me too. But not regretful? I looked at her. Not even a little bit. 3 days later, I was at the hardware store when I saw Harper, Brandon's wife. She was in the lighting aisle, staring at LED bulbs like they held the secrets of the universe. She saw me before I could turn around. You, she said. Harper. You destroyed him. I didn't destroy anyone. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Really? Brandon's business is gone. His reputation is shredded. Clients are suing him for breach of contract. But you didn't destroy him? He destroyed himself. I just stopped enabling him. By sabotaging his equipment? I didn't sabotage anything. His lease went into default. The leasing company repossessed their property. That's standard procedure. You told them to do it. I informed them their assets were at risk. That's not sabotage. That's business. Harper stepped closer. Her makeup was perfect, her outfit expensive, but her eyes were desperate. We're losing everything. The house, the cars, everything. Brandon's parents won't help. My family cut us off. And you just watched it happen. Yes, I said. I did. How can you be so cold? How can you be so blind? I countered. You married a man who built his business on debt and ego. You encouraged him. You posted photos of success that didn't exist. You're as responsible for this as he is. We needed to project success to get clients. You needed to build a sustainable business. Instead, you built an illusion. Harper's face twisted. You're a bitter old man who couldn't stand to see his son succeed. If Brandon had succeeded, I'd have been happy for him. But he didn't succeed. He failed. And he failed because he made stupid choices. He needed help. He needed discipline. He needed consequences. He needed to learn that actions matter. And you were happy to teach him? No, I said. I wasn't happy, but I was willing. Harper stared at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away, leaving her cart in the aisle. I finished my shopping and went home. Claire was cooking dinner. Ran into Harper, I said. How'd that go? About how you'd expect. She blame you? Completely. Claire stirred something on the stove. People always blame the person who reveals the problem, not the person who created it. Yeah. Does it bother you? Not really. Harper never mattered to me. What about Brandon? Does he matter? I sat down at the kitchen table. He did, past tense. When did that change? When I read his financial records and realized the party invitation came 2 weeks after the patent sale news, when I understood that everything about his outreach was calculated. People can change, Ray. Maybe he really did want to reconnect. Then he would have called before he needed money. He would have reached out on my birthday or Christmas or any of the hundreds of days over 20 years. But he didn't. He only called when he had something to gain. Claire brought 2 plates to the table. You're probably right. I know I'm right. We ate in silence for a while. Then Claire said, Mitchell Green called today. I looked up. What did he want? To thank you. Apparently, your tip saved them from a major loss. Brandon was planning to move the equipment to a different venue after the party, somewhere harder to recover. How'd Green know that? They found emails on Brandon's computer, instructions to his crew. I set down my fork. So I really did stop him from stealing the equipment. Technically, yes. Then I did them a favor. A big one. Green said if you ever need anything, they owe you. I thought about that. I don't need anything from them. Maybe not now, but connections are useful. Maybe. Claire looked at me across the table. You did the right thing, you know, even if it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel anything, I said. That's the weird part. I thought I'd feel satisfied, or vindicated or something, but I just feel empty. That's normal. You lost your son. I lost him 20 years ago. This just made it official. Still. I finished my dinner, put the plate in the sink. Through the window, I could see the garage, my workbench, the tools I'd spent decades collecting. Everything in its place. Everything organized. Everything under control. That's what I'd done with Brandon. Organized him out of my life. Controlled the situation. Made everything clean and final. It was the right choice. I knew it was. But Claire was right. It cost something. Not regret, though. Never regret. Just closure. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the loading dock, the rain, Brandon's face when the trucks arrived. Around 2 a.m., I got up, went to my office, pulled out the folder of financial documents, the timeline Claire had created, the notes I'd made while planning everything. I looked at it all. The evidence of Brandon's failure, the proof of his manipulation, the documentation of his choices. Then I put it in the shredder. All of it. Every page. Fed it through slowly, watched it turn to strips. Claire appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Finishing it." "Those are your records. I don't need them anymore. What if Brandon tries something legal?" "He won't. He can't. Everything I did was legal." "But, Claire, it's done. He's gone. I don't need to keep evidence of his failure. I just need to move on." She came over, put her arms around me. "Okay." We stood there for a while, listening to the shredder hum. When the last page disappeared, I turned it off. "Feel better?" Claire asked. "Ask me tomorrow." We went back to bed. This time, I slept. Friday morning, 1 week after the party, I was in the garage when Brandon's BMW pulled into my driveway. I watched him get out. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes red from lack of sleep. Claire appeared beside me. "Want me to call the police?" "No, let's see what he wants." Brandon walked up slowly, stopped 10 feet away. "I need to talk to you," he said. "So, talk." "Harper left me, took everything that wasn't already repossessed." "Okay." "My parents won't return my calls. Her family threatened legal action." "Okay." "Gulf Coast is suing me personally for breach of contract. I'm looking at bankruptcy." I didn't respond, just watched him. "I lost everything," Brandon said. "My business, my reputation, my marriage, everything." "Yes," I said. "You did. Because of you. Because of your choices." Brandon's face twisted. "I came here to ask you one thing." "What?" "Was it worth it? Destroying your own son?" I thought about that question, really thought about it. 20 years of silence, 20 years of being erased, then the sudden call when money appeared, the manipulation, the fake warmth, the calculated invitation. "Yes," I said. "It was worth it." "How can you say that?" "Because you needed to learn what it feels like, to be nothing to someone you thought would help you. I was 12 years old when I left. And you were 18, 19, 20, 25, 30. You had years to reach out. You chose not to. You only called when you wanted something." Brandon took a step forward. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I cut you out. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. So forgive me." I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the desperation, the fear, the complete collapse of everything he'd built. And I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no second thoughts, just satisfaction. "No," I said. "What?" "I won't forgive you. You don't deserve it. I'm your son. You stopped being my son 20 years ago. I'm just making it official." Brandon's hands were shaking. "Please, I have nothing left." "Good." "Good?" "Yeah, good. Now you know how it feels." I turned and walked back toward the house. Brandon called after me. "Wait, don't you have anything else to say?" I stopped, turned around one last time. "Yeah, I do." "What?" I smiled, really smiled. For the first time in this whole thing, I felt genuinely happy. "Your present is outside." Brandon stared at me, and I watched understanding hit his face. The same words, the same exact words from the party. But now he got it. Now he understood. There was no present. There never had been. Just consequences. "You're a monster," he whispered. "No," I said. "I'm just done being your victim." I walked inside. Claire was standing in the doorway. "How do you feel?" she asked. I looked back through the window. Brandon was getting in his car, shoulders shaking. "I feel great," I said, and I meant it. "No regrets?" "Not even one," What if he tries something else? Let him try. He's got nothing left to hurt me with. Brandon's car pulled out of the driveway, drove away, and I knew I'd never see him again. Perfect. Claire put her hand on my arm. You won. Yeah, I said. I did. And it felt good. Really good. Not empty, not hollow, not complicated. Just pure, simple victory. I'd spent 20 years being invisible to my son. Now he'd spend the rest of his life remembering exactly what that cost him. Fair trade. I went back to the garage, back to my workbench, picked up a wrench, got back to work. Outside, the sun was shining. Inside, everything was exactly where it should be. Brandon was gone. His business was destroyed. His reputation was shattered. His life was in ruins. And I was fine. Better than fine. I was victorious.